My name is Elena Cupo, and I'm a twin. Today, I'm interviewing my mom to get some insight on what it was like raising twins. Did you take any fertility medication to make you have twins?
That surprisingly is a question people ask me all the time. No, I did not. You guys were a total surprise.
Very cool. Did you know you were having twins?
I actually didn't know I was having twins until I was almost 20 weeks pregnant. I think I was 19 weeks pregnant at the time when I found out I was having twins. I went in with a decision to find out who actually you were, Elena, and whether you were male or female. And surprise, there were two heartbeats. And I remember the doctor saying, well, let's see, you want to know the sex of the baby? And I said, yep. And she proceeded, and as she was going on, she shut the monitor really quick and started looking at her notes, and I got so nervous. And then she started over again, and she said, okay, let me ask you a question. The first time that we did the ultrasound, was I rushing? I said, well, you didn't realize, we didn't know that I was pregnant at the time you were doing an ultrasound for another medical issue. And we found the baby, and that was it. She said, okay, that explains things. Well, let's start this again. And so she starts the monitor, and she goes through all the information. She said, here's the arm, and it's a healthy arm, and here's the such and such, and this is healthy. And then she said, and here is her heart. And I was like, oh, it's a girl. And she's like, and here is another heart. And I immediately got so upset. I was like, what does that mean? My baby has two hearts. And his 7-year-old at the time said, no, Mom, that means two babies. And I wasn't looking at the monitor, and that was the first time that we found out, actually, that I was having twins.
So, do twins run in our family?
They actually do. They run on both sides of the family, but after researching about it, it seems like it's the paternal side that makes up that decision. However, identical twins, which is what you and your sister are completely a spontaneous thing. It doesn't necessarily need to run in a family. The egg just completely splits. So, but oddly enough, on my side of the family, my dad's side, you guys are one of 13 sets of twins that we know about. My father has a very large family, and on your father's side of the family, there are about 6 sets of twins.
Oh, wow. Were there ever periods of time at home when Valerie and I were separated?
So it was very hard because for the most part I was a single mom, so it was very hard to do things with you guys separately, but whenever I could take that opportunity, I did. So it would be like things like you stopped taking a nap way earlier than Valerie stopped taking a nap. So during those times when Valerie would still be napping, you and I would go outside, and we would have a picnic, or we'd watch a special show if it was raining outside, or try to do something like that. And then as often as possible, we would try to go on shopping trips. Valerie and I, if my parents came to visit, or if somebody would come to visit, I would try to take Valerie out as well.
If either of us got sick, did the other twin comfort the ill twin?
So for the most part, you guys usually got sick together, but there was a time when Valerie had to be hospitalized for having pneumonia, and you were very worried. And Valerie had a very hard time sleeping in the hospital without you. She would cry constantly, and we would see depression, and she wasn't eating properly, and she just really was very sad all the time. And we the doctors finally agreed to try it out and let you come to the hospital and stay because it was just causing too much stress for both of you when you would come and visit or whatever. Um, the doctors were seeing that there was just like too much sadness wrapped around parting you guys. So they did let you stay at the hospital, and all of a sudden we saw Valerie's numbers go up and Valerie doing a lot better. So I guess the answer to the question is yes. You provided each other some comfort and security for sure.
When we entered preschool, how did being in the same class change us socially?
So that was a very hard decision. And in preschool, during the time that you guys were ready for preschool, I did a lot of research, and there were, up until that point, basically schools decided for you. They always separated twins. It was always said that you had to separate twins. But then there were some studies that started to dispute that and say that it might be healthy for you to stay together. You know, certain twins just need that. But what we did find out when you did go to preschool, we did put you in the same class together. It was like the little experiment. And you started talking for your sister. We found that she like no longer had a voice, which I mean we would see bouts of before then, but for sure at that point you finished all her sentences. She didn't really have to answer. She didn't answer any questions, and she was really just relying on you to be her voice for everything. So after that, we decided to separate you guys.
And at home, while we were in preschool in the same class, did I still speak for Valerie, or was it different at home?
No, we would see that at home as well, but less. Valerie, when she was in her own element, she seemed to be more comfortable with talking for herself or expressing herself. There were still times that, you know, if somebody would come over or ask a question, you tended to be way more outgoing than she, and she totally loved it. She would, you know, hide behind you and let you do all the talking because she would prefer it. She didn't like people even looking at her, so she was a little different. When people would look at her, she didn't want to be the center of attention, and you were totally happy in the star role.
When one of us were being scolded, did the other step in and defend the other or help with the scolding?
I would say that for the most part, you guys defended each other. You would try to protect each other at all times. I mean, even when you were angry at each other, you would do this thing where you would have like this ritual where you made up with each other in a certain way, like you wanted to like give each other something for comfort. So you would both comfort each other. Like you would say, "Oh, here, this is. I know you always loved this toy. You can play with it if somebody was sad." So you guys were very protective of each other.
Did you ever watch us play, and what did you see?
Oh, playing with you, watching you guys play was an amazing thing. I don't even know what you guys were doing or saying, but it was like you read each other's mind. When you would play, you would just dance together, basically. So what I mean by that is like if you were playing Barbies, for instance, you guys would make each other, you could see that the dolls were moving and they were talking to each other, because then they would go, you would shake your head or whatever, and then you go to the next phase. Like you and your sister were constantly in sync, like you were making the Barbies talk, but nothing was coming out of your mouths. And you guys would just go like hours like that, where you would have them lie down, you would have them eat breakfast, you would be moving them like they were talking to each other, but it must have been all in your head.
Mm-hmm. If one twin was sad, was the other one sad too?
Yeah, you guys were pretty synonymous with your feelings. Like if somebody was, if one of you were feeling sad, the other one would instantly stop what they're doing and be sad with their sister. If somebody was hurt, guys would want the ice pack on the same area, even if it wasn't hurting you. I think that you were definitely ones to feel each other's pain, or or internalized each other's sorrow. I think that still happens now. I'll still see bouts where if one is crying or one is upset, the other is upset for the other.
Did we fight often, and what about?
You guys, when you were younger, I feel like your fights were over very small things, like not wanting to share something or deciding all of a sudden that you didn't want to be a twin or you didn't want to be in each other's space, but it was very short lived. If one or the other of you cried, it was all over. Everybody was hugging immediately. Nobody wanted to make the other sad.
Mm-hmm. How did raising twins differ from raising a single child?
It was really difficult, I have to say. You know, I got so used to when you have one child, they're dependent on you. You have story time. You sit them on your lap. You read a book together. You know, you feed them a bottle in your arms. And when it comes time for twins, you know, you only have two hands. So I would prop you up in a way to feed you guys a bottle at the same time. It would be very rare that you wanted to both sit on like one knee and read a book. You would rather like read books to each other even before you could read. You kind of wanted to be, you were much more independent together, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like together you would go off and do things, and you needed me way less than my single child did.
Right. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you.